So traders, we just opened up a position. We have a live position going here on the Aussie dollar 15-minute chart. What we're going to do today is break this trade down for you guys and tell you everything we used in order to get involved. We're also going to talk about 3 very important questions that you can use in order to predict with a high degree of accuracy where a chart in any financial market is likely to go next. These 3 questions are quite simple, but equally as important. They consist of what, when, and how. After the intro and disclaimer, I'll be showing you guys exactly what I use to answer each of these questions and how I use these questions to help me accurately predict where a chart on any financial market is likely to go next. So if that sounds interesting, make sure you're subscribed here by clicking the button down below the video to the right hand side and the notification bell so that you're alerted when we come out with videos like this each and every week. Make sure to click that like button for me while the intro and disclaimer roll, and I'll be right back to discuss the what, when, and how that we used in order to place this Aussie dollar trade. Alright guys, so before we look at the Aussie dollar trade, let's take a look at the 3 questions we had to ask ourselves before placing that trade, and the 3 questions we used in order to make the prediction that that market was going to continue in the downward direction. The first question we discussed was what. And how are we going to determine the what of a market situation? Well, the way we determine that is by looking at the trend of the market. What is the market likely to do next? And the way we determine that is looking at what it's done before. And not only looking at what it's done before, but having rules in place for trend that give us an advantage over the market. So, for instance, I know that with the rules I use for trend, I have a 73% chance of a market continuing in the direction of trend. Now, the way I know that is because I've tested thousands of scenarios using the rules that I've applied to trend trading. I've tested thousands and thousands, possibly tens of thousands of scenarios using these rules, and they give me an advantage of around a 73% chance of a market continuing in trend. Now, what I'm going to do is actually share those rules with you here today. So, what are my rules for trend trading? What I'm looking for my what or for my trend is to see if a market is breaking structure to the downside. We'll use a downtrend for this case. After we break this level of structure support, the rules that give me this 73% chance of continuing in trend are I'm waiting to see if this market pulls back up as long as we don't break and close above this previous resistance level right after the break. Okay, so we break that structure support level. Right after that break, I'm using this level of resistance as my last stand level. If the market does not get up to this level and break and close above it, no matter what it does in between here, I know that I have a 73% chance of this market continuing lower in trend because of the rules I use, and those are the exact rules I use for trend. So with those rules being in place, my what is always determined by the trend, by the rules I have for trending markets. Now, what's the next question we have to ask ourselves after what? The next question we ask ourselves is when, right? So after the what, say the market's in a downtrend, we ask ourselves when. The answer to that question is, well, when are we expecting this market to continue down? If we know the what, which is we're expecting the market to continue down, then when are we expecting that? Well, the most likely scenario that we have is that this market either retests this structure support level or finds resistance at its previous resistance levels. These 2 levels are our win. That would be our win right there. Our win would be at this previous level of structure support. If the market gets a little bit higher, it'd be at the previous level of structure resistance. So now we've got win taken care of. And our final question we ask ourselves is how. So we know what the market's done and is likely to do. We know when it's likely to do it. Now we have to ask ourselves how. How just is going to stand for an entry reason of some kind that is testable in historical data and that we verified to give us an edge over the market. So how is going to be the entry? And guys, mastering these 3 questions is what allows me to predict where markets are going to go with a high degree of accuracy. What I'm going to do is use these 3 questions, use this graph here we just drew out on the screen in order to show you the predictive analysis behind the Aussie dollar trade. So let's go ahead and go down to that trade. Let's delete all this. And here we are on this Aussie dollar trade. Now let's go ahead and ask ourselves those three questions, starting with what? Well, the what is definitely a downtrend, right? Especially the rules we just talked about. Remember, we have this push down, pull back up, and a break of structure support. After this break of structure support, we're looking right here. This is our last stand level. And as long as the market does not break above this last stand level and close above it, then we're expecting this market to continue in the downward direction. Now, what is our win? The answer to that question is previous structure support, right? We have this green box pointed out for that zone we were looking at. We also have our previous structure resistance if this market goes any higher. Now we have what answered, we have when answered. Our final question is how. How are we going to get involved? Well, this market ended up putting in a really nice double top right here at this area, giving us our how and allowing us to place this trade. Asking ourselves what, when, and how gave us the opportunity to place this specific trade. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and pause the video, guys. Whether this trade wins or loses, I'll come back after this trade is over. We'll discuss a little bit more about the analysis and how we use these questions to create an advantage over the market. For me, this will probably take a couple of hours in order for this trade to play out, but for you, with the power of editing, it will be right now. And just like that, traders, here we are with those first target wins on the Aussie dollar. What we had was this market coming up. Here was our double top. As you can see, this market did push up, get close to stopping us out, but then rolled over, pushed down, and hit our first targets. Our stop has since then been moved to break even. We're waiting to see if this market can continue in trend to at least retest this structure. Why? Because we know we have a 73% chance of that happening based on the rules we use for structure before this market comes up and crosses above this resistance level looking left. This is the systematic approach and the three questions we use to place a majority of the trading opportunities you see us take here at the trading channel. We always ask ourselves three separate questions, beginning with what, which is going to stand for the trend of the market. That's how we will determine the what of the market. By figuring out what it's done in the past, what it's likely to do now, we're going to look at the when. When is it likely to continue in trend? That is going to be structure. And last but not least, we're going to look at the how, which is going to be the entry reason we've tested through historical data that gives us a edge over the market. So guys, these are the three questions we ask ourselves again almost every single time we place a trade. Adding these three questions every time you place a trade can significantly improve the accuracy of the trades you take. And of course, trend, structure, and entry are not the only parts of trading. There is a massive amount of more information you'll need in order to create success in this business. And just like trend, there are also very specific rules you need to be using for trend, structure, and entry. If you would like to learn the specific entry rules, the specific structure rules, and the specific trend rules that we use here at the trading channel on a daily basis to place trades, then feel free to click the link in the description labeled EAP Training Program to check out some more advanced training from us. Also, we've decided to extend one more time the free reversal training that we had going on a couple of weeks ago. We had such great feedback from that free training that I want to extend it to you guys for 7 more days. So click the link in the description labeled free reversal training if you want to get your hands on that free strategy that teaches you a lot about trend, structure, and reversing markets. Before you go ahead and click that subscribe button if you're new to be alerted when we come out with more videos just like this. If this was helpful to you, make sure you go ahead and click that like button for me. Make sure to share this video as well to help spread the word about what it's going to take to actually become a profitable trader. I wish you guys the best of luck in all your future trades, and I will talk to you in the next video.